Meet Bill, a native of Dayton, Ohio, with an engineering background. He currently serves as the executive director of the Jewish Federation of Reading Berks. He and his wife Andy moved to Reading 6 years ago and have become active members of our community. They are the proud parents of 3 sons and 9 wonderful grandchildren.
My connection to Judaism has evolved over the years. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, 3 synagogues, and most Jews lived within a 1 to 2 mile radius. I went to the Reformed Synagogue religious school. I was confirmed but not bar mitzvahed. My paternal grandfather was the youngest of 28 children. His father died before he was born. I don't know what happened to my father in Vienna. I do know that the police were looking for him to arrest him and arrested my uncle by mistake. He rarely went to services, but could argue Talmud with a rabbi into the wee hours of the morning. I also had a good relationship with our rabbi because I spent many hours in his office for misbehaving in religious school. My father immigrated here in 1936, my mother and grandmother in 1938. I remember many evenings lying in bed with my mother as she read letters from her parents written while they were in Theresienstadt, where they eventually were murdered. Although he rarely talked about it, my father enlisted in the U.S. Army, landed in France at D-Day +1, interrogated his high school chemistry teacher in Vienna because he was a Gestapo leader, and freed my cousins from a work camp in Poland. They're the only people I ever known to refer to my father as looking like an angel. They immigrated to Israel, where Andy and I've had the good fortune to visit with them many times over the years. They researched my father's family tree, completed it, and keep it up to date. It now has 191 members living in all continents around the world, except Antarctica. I learned late in my grandmother's life, she and a cousin regularly sent packages to over 40 of our surviving family members throughout the world after the war. I've been lucky. My parents taught me the importance of education. I knew from the age of 8 that I was going to graduate school. They also exemplified working for social justice and support for Israel. I remember taking part in the 60s in a civil rights demonstration in Yellow Springs, Ohio, where they were protesting a barber who refused to cut an Afro-American's hair. I also attended with our second son the March in Washington for Soviet Jewry. I met Andy at the Dayton Jewish Community Center pool, where my best friend was throwing her sister in. We dated through our senior year in high school and got married in my junior year of college. We have been married for almost 52 years and are fortunate to have 3 sons and, more important, 9 grandchildren. I got involved in Jewish community life when the oldest son began kindergarten at the Jewish K-12 school. I felt I couldn't ask others to do things for my kids that I wouldn't do for theirs. I volunteered to be on the school's education committee, and by asking too many questions, it led eventually to being president of the school, president of the Jewish Community Center, and active on many committees and the executive board of the Jewish Federation of Dayton. I also married into a large, wonderful family. More than 150 of Andy's extended family, who lived in a 60-mile radius of Dayton, came to our wedding. My family only had 9. My parents, my brother and sister, my aunt, uncle, cousin, and grandma. Andy's parents taught us by living the value of family and philanthropy. When we closed the family company, I decided to start a different life. I went back to school, working for a teaching degree, and also looking for a Jewish community professional. I was fortunate to be hired as the VP of Community Planning and Allocations for the Jewish Federation of Columbus before coming here 6 years ago. Reading has put us closer to all of our grandchildren, and Andy and I have found Reading to be a warm, professional, engaged, and engaging community. I know that being Jewish was the cause of much of my family's source, but I also know its values and culture has helped us survive and grow back. It is an honor to work for the Jewish community. L'dor v'dor.
The Jewish Federation of Reading hopes you enjoyed this story in getting to know a fellow Jew living in Berks County. Federation is the central organization for issues affecting all Jews in Berks County. It represents us all, working closely in cooperation with local synagogues and community partners. Your gift to Federation supports our Jewish community here in Berks County, in Israel, and around the world. You provide cultural programs through the JCC. You assist Berks County Jews in need through Jewish Family Service. You combat the growing problem of anti-Semitism. You fund Jewish education for the next generation. To continue these services, we ask you to participate in a very special community campaign. During 2020, generous community members will match dollar-for-dollar campaign increases from both new donors and longtime contributors. Every new or additional campaign dollar donated in 2020 becomes two. If you're not yet a contributor, please consider starting. If you're already a contributor, please consider increasing your gift. Your campaign contribution to Federation keeps our story of Jewish life going here in Berks County.